You subscribe to Pando? That's so hot.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for the sub, aged up. Oh yeah, reminds me, I should mute the thingy because in the middle of the podcast it's always a little bit, especially when you watch the recording or like listen to the recording um on Spotify. It's weird when suddenly Miranda says some weird shit. So I was muted. Guys, I kinda want to start with a little bit of a shout out to CCP. I think it's just fitting because today they gave out redeem codes for skins to all partners, and it's kind of a nice thing. I mean, um, beside the support with Plex and all that stuff, so they're doing a lot of stuff now for the content creators in Eve, which I like a lot. Obviously, I mean, basically they like content creators, be it I mean when I say content creators, I also mean people that don't stream, like I said, or Wolfsdragoon, right? You guys are content creators that might just create content for only their guys and not stream it, not get anything out of it, but like everyone in Eve kind of relies on people creating that content, right? So I like seeing that they at least support the guys, the visible guys now, right? Hard for them to support everyone who creates any content. But yeah, I like that.
Just
But
means I need to start streaming.
maybe. I mean, I like it a lot. You know, when I started streaming, I didn't necessarily start streaming to like, I don't know, make money or some shit, right? At the time I needed a change. I honestly like I was kinda like looking for something. Like I needed to like a change of pace, something else to like you know, get busy with and stuff. Um, so that was the main motivation for me, and I think for anyone who likes to watch streams every now and then, especially well-made streams, like we've got a couple podcasts that are really well done, like Meta Show. They put in some real work. Like Mittens or not, I don't care, but it's quality, like just from like what they do, right? And then same for the other podcasts like Talking in Stations and so on. They have been long gone. Some quality shit out there, and I always like that. So you know, I thought why not? But yeah, but the main reason why I wanted to start with a shout out to CCP, which is very what do you call it? Uncommon, I would say. um, I kind of like that they're reverting those changes, right? Be it the drone changes or the clone changes. And it's not necessarily because I think those changes are necessarily super bad or whatever, like CCP has made mistakes before, but that they quickly go and say, okay, we didn't like it as much. We thought we like it, but let's go back on this and reconsider. And they go just back and don't fuck around with it. They just fucking go back and fix it. And I like it a lot. And that shows the mindset going forward. I think that's very healthy for the game. And I think a lot of people have been missing that, right? Or do you guys have an opinion on it? Maybe I should even give you guys an intro, but I think everyone knows you guys by now. So do you have a thought on
Yeah,
that?
I like that they're willing to iterate on this. They did it pretty quickly, the ESS stuff at least. There's some things that I think would still be like there's things that I think that might be changes they'll make in the future. As like because I think we still see with the ESS there's a lot of ways to meme it kind of. There's more time though, so it's kind of nice. I don't know. I like that they iterate. I like that they're paying attention and reacting quickly.
Yeah, ESS changes is another good example. I pointed that out last time too, I believe. We don't have to wait two
I think
years.
the I think the clone thing was stupid. I'm glad they finally realized that. Well, they realized it quickly instead of I don't know 3 months down the road. In terms of the drone thing, I mean, I have guys in my corp in Alliance who just literally just hunt around and blops all day. I mean, it killed their blops content. Like they couldn't find anything. I think that because no one was doing it anymore. I mean, I'm happy that they realized it. Or I'm just happy they changed it quickly versus sitting there and waiting, and then 4 months, 5 months down the line, finally admitting it. Because that's Yeah, killing. They killed an avenue of content, at least for some people. They killed a way for people to rat and make money that a lot of people use now because warring noms are shit. Ratting is, I mean, shit already, but I mean, most people, if they rat, they AFK rat unless you're in like a super. So like they killed that whole thing. It affected a lot more than I think they intended it to affect. The clone thing was just sort of dumb. I think that I even found I remember correctly, it was like a post when they originally made that clone change like 5 years ago that said this was going to be in the game for forever. Like that you could set your death clone to any station. I'd have to go back and look, but when they made that change, they made a claim, and then they backtracked on that claim when they changed it.
Yeah. Yo's asking where Randa is. I mean, usually Fridays she just gets home before we do the podcast, but we had to move it because Seddow is actually in a car right now. Seddow is driving because real life got in the way, and just timing wise it wouldn't have fit. And then we tested the sound quality, which is fine. Like a lot of people probably don't even realize he's actually on the phone right now. But yeah, that also means it's too early for Miranda to get here, and she's actually doing a gaming tournament for her soldiers right now, right? So for her unit, they're doing like some, because it's an EOD unit, they're doing what is it called? What's that game called again? Where you give instructions?
Rainbow Six Siege.
No. You give instructions, and then the other guy needs to figure it out so the bomb doesn't explode. Or keep talking.
Oh,
and
I know what you're talking about. It's like a bomb that's got like 4 sides to it and a bunch of different puzzles on it.
Yeah,
And it's like a
and-
VR game.
yeah, and it's an EOD unit, so it fits quite well, right? And then this kind of stuff, just a team building thing. But yeah, she can't be here today, but she's gonna be there next week, and I'm trying to line like a special thing up for next week too, which is going to be very interesting. But yeah, it's not confirmed yet, so yeah, I'm not gonna ping it out. Not like CCP Rise. Rise, if you're listening, right? I'll catch you. Because he was supposed to be on like weeks ago.
Oh no.
But he's busy, right? He's a busy guy, and he is like he has a young kid and all that stuff, right? It is what it is. There's no big deal. Like, I know he's busy. But yeah, he is part of that positive change too, right? That we talked about. Like, I think he's one of those guys that is not afraid to admit, okay, I wasn't on point here. Let's tweak, right? That's the vibe I always got from him. So,
Well, who's in charge of balancing hacks?
well,
I don't know. I just want to know who it is.
Hack in terms of block warfare, I feel like hacks are more balanced, but like, but I always say that in terms of hacks versus hacks. I think that the other ships type, like battle cruisers, and the other cruisers just can't compete unless you're in a hack.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. I don't know if you want us to jump right into that.
Let's do it.
Like,
fuck it.
For a while, it was just Munin versus Munin, and now it's
All right.
shifted to where some groups are on serve, some groups on Sacs, and Sacs are sort of the dog shit ones out of that whole group now. And
Yeah.
serves are only good because they can outpace the Munin and have longer range. But like, you see a mix of everything now.
Well, you see a mix of all hacks, I think.
I think the ADC,
It's still hacks,
yeah,
right?
the ADC is too strong, and for the amount of firepower they
Yeah.
for a cruiser, they're way too cheap to deliver that much fucking firepower. We had
So-
like 80 Munins break a Nanazu that tanks like 5 dreads on its own yesterday during a fort fight. Like, it's a little ridiculous how much firepower a Munin can pack.
Yeah, but
for
like,
200 mil.
but are you arguing that 80 mutants shouldn't crack a fax?
I don't. If the fax can take 5 dreads, no, I don't think so. Because that if you can break a fax with 80 Munins versus 5 dreads, it removes cap escalation from the game.
No, I don't agree with that.
There's a difficult balance there. I recall in LoSec when the fax changes first happened, and you didn't have the cap limitations you have now with cap boosters. There was a fight, and I think that it was a snuffbox fight with Waffles, and I'm not exactly sure who it was against, but one of the fleets won, and there was one fax left on grid, and there were like 70 Macarials trying to break one fax with newts, and they couldn't actually kill it until it ran out of cap boosters.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of
gauges.
that. I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
I always thought, so for hard dreads, it's a similar problem, right? So horde dreads are designed to join the sub-cap fights, right? But they're also designed to tank a lot of sub-caps. And I've never been a fan of that dynamic. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, you can tank them so hard that like any fleet of like a certain size, let's say, if you're in Hex and you only bring 30 Hex, it's most likely that Dread is going to tank you forever. Like, it's taken too long, right? By that time, there's going to be all kinds of shit on grid killing you, right? And I think 30 people should be able to crack a Dread, quite honestly. I'm not a fan of like a Dread or a Fax tanking it. So now,
I think when it gets to stuff like this, where it's like, oh, what amount of dudes should clear it, I think everyone's gonna have their own opinion. Like I disagree with you there. I don't think 30 people should be able to break a haul rev if they're in cruisers. I think if
Yeah.
they're like it's something in like battleships or battle cruisers, I can understand that. But I guess I'm just saying, I think for the size, the hull, the price of the Munin, packs way too good of a punch for what it's worth.
but
Yeah, let's get back to
Yeah.
that. That's the point, right?
Wolf
I
is
think
a heck
everyone's
meta
gonna have
hater.
different opinions on. Yeah, I think that everyone's gonna have different opinions on. Oh, this amount of ships should break this dread
Yeah.
because the guy invested 4 bill or however much.
I-
Like, I mean, I used to run the Goku fleets. I fucking loved them. I loved them. You were able to fucking nuke a dread with 200 dudes in, I don't know, 60 seconds. But now it's like, I mean, it's different. But we'll go back to the just Munin packs too much firepower in my opinion.
So,
Period.
well,
I mean,
Yeah.
so wait a second. But so when we talk about the hack meta being too strong, do we all agree? Like, so we need to focus on like what do we exactly mean? And I disagree that the hack meta, like, it doesn't have to be the hack meta itself. Maybe battleships are just too weak. And why are battleships so weak? That might just be the cap's fault. So maybe it's all just capitals that force the hack meta
Yeah.
Well,
and make the hack meta so dominant, right?
I think the Hagman is dominant because of the speed of the things. They
Yeah.
they hit hard and you can run and bail quickly if you get in a fucked up situation. There's no commitment to it. And I mean, I don't blame any group for running the hack meta. I understand why you would do it, like, but I just fucking hate it. I think it makes it too easy to bail out of fights. Makes it hard to makes it near impossible for another side to make you commit to it. You know, it instead of committing to a fight,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'll try to fight these 50 Abaddons or 50 Ravens, but if I get into a shitty situation and start to lose like 2 scimitars, realize I can't break them, you know, or I fuck up and get tackled, I'll just tell my fleet do a line to the sun with their MWDs on, move 2,700 meters a second, bail within 10 seconds, no
right. So
loss.
I think it's helpful to compare what you get out of a hack versus what you would get out of a T1 battlecruiser or a T1 or any battleship actually, besides maybe like nightmares. A lot of the battleship doctrines depend because subcap logi will die in a large fight, right? So you depend on escalating. So you have to commit. So I have no issue with battleships in that sense. Like you have to commit to the fight in order to win it. But with hacks, you have just as much range as those battleships for the most part. You have if you ADC properly, you're going to have as much tank, and you have way more speed, so you don't have to commit to anything. So you're going to be on grid for a little bit. Oh darn, okay, we're losing some ships, and then you're all just going to warp out for the most part. You might lose a few, might lose like 3-4 bill total in like a large fight, but for
Yep.
the most part, your fleet's intact, and you didn't lose much. You got out. If you win, and you win versus a fleet that took the risk of committing, you're going to kill all of them.
Yeah, look at the fights in Delph. Best example of why the hack meta is so dominant, right? A fight kicks off 2,000 people, and after an hour of fighting, how much do you think dies? Right? Like 10, 20
Like 10
bill?
bill. Yeah.
It's nothing, and it has to do not only with tie-dye, slowing everything down instantly, but also when one side decides, okay, we can't win this fight, or we're not trading favorably, they just bail, and they can bail easily, right?
Yeah, and I
And
also
I'm
want to be
not.
clear about the hack meta, in my opinion, is MWD hacks, because AB hacks I have no issue with because they're much slower. They have to commit more.
And I
That's
can
true.
understand like the brick tank AB Eagle. That makes sense. You're committed. You could get bombed. There's a lot more risk in it. I
Yeah.
think. I just think, and I get that you want a cruiser to go fast because it's a cruiser. Destroyers go fast, and as you go up the ladder, ships will go smaller because they go slower because they're faster. except for like the Nightmare. But that's because of a racial bonus, and I think the Nightmare is a little too OP as well.
Oh,
Even though
don't
I
say
fucking
that.
love
No,
flying.
no. Let's not talk about that.
I love flying them, but it is definitely overpowered. There are counters to it, but it involves a cap escalation. And I think that's why people use it to force a cap escalation, because one of the few ways to beat nightmares is to put dreads on grid, especially hot dreads or something. But
Yeah.
the
So, well, nightmares are strong, but I think that you can still counter them with just a blob of mutants. It's
oh,
just
you
a matter
100%
of having
can,
enough
because
mutants.
they
Right?
can get
And
on
that's
the gun
it goes
with a
back to
nightmare.
yeah, exactly.
And so
And
someone,
Max beat nightmares as well. To be fair.
yeah, Ryan says like chunk ADCU in half and give battleships some countermeasures to bombs. And that's one thing I've said from the start when defender launchers were introduced. Why not give them to battleships too, right? Why not have like tempests
Well, I
then
think
suddenly
battleships.
be unbobbable because they have a defender?
I don't know. I think having defenders on jackdaws versus having them on battleships makes fleet diversity, and it's like for small groups like my size. I form in U.S. times. If I wanted, I could probably get 60 to 70 guys in fleet. But like, do I want them all in Tempest, or am I gonna have to worry about bombs, or can I have to sacrifice some for like defenders? I think at big level block warfare, it's good to have the different ships that do different stuff. But when you get to smaller groups, of course, you're gonna hurt from that, because you don't have enough guys to go around everywhere. I don't know. I like in big block warfare. I like the kind of thing of like diversity in terms of okay, I can't bring everyone in a Tempest. I actually have to make people reship into this and fly this, or else I'm gonna get bombed. I think if
Yeah.
you give battleships defender launchers, then I think that's a little overpowered. I agree they
Yeah.
should have a countermeasure to hacks, or at least there should be some sort of trade off there to where
The,
battleships or battle cruisers can fight hacks better. But I think that the defender launcher is a little way too OP.
It's a difficult thing with battleships because I do feel battleships compared to if you did battleships into battle cruisers, you're gonna haze them, right? Typically, you're gonna haze them if you're not just massively outnumbered. You're gonna win that trade pretty easily, pretty much any battleship hull, I think. But if you do it into hacks, it's just a lot more risky. I still do nightmares and max into hack blobs, like we just had one, and we use nightmares because it is really solid at dealing with hacks. But the other thing is that with battleships, you are right now, even with T1 battleships, risking way more, not just in terms of winning the fight, but you're actually risking more ISK because hacks are also so cheap. And so you end up with this moment. If I use nightmares versus hacks right now, I have to kill at least 3 hacks, maybe 4 sometimes, depending on the hack, for every nightmare that I lose. Ideally, I don't lose any, but yeah.
As much as I hate the fact that you can just have like the hacks usually can beat most battleships in this game, I think that there are ways to win. If you're flying against a competent FC who knows what he's doing with hacks, most likely 90% gonna lose.
It's difficult, yeah. I mean, you can do some things with nightmares and null, at least to keep yourself relatively safe with the bubbles and screening. But if the blob is large enough, they're not going to care that much about
Yeah.
screening bubble.
So one thing I always bring up, and hack meta hasn't been, it's not the first time someone brings it up, right? Like it's a big point for a while now, ever since the mutants have been so dominant. So one thing I always bring up, and I'm not sure if I talked to you guys about that, is the idea of putting mass on guns. So removing some mass from the hulls and then putting it back on with the guns. And then the idea is you bring more mass back onto the ship with long range guns than you would with short range guns. So in theory, you should have like a short range hull. Let's say if you fly autocannon mutants, I know it's ridiculous, but autocannon mutants, you would be way faster than you would do with arty mutants, right? So the autocannon mutant would be faster than the normal mutant is right now, while the arty mutant would be slower than the mutant is right now. And
see, I
think that would be a solid approach to like have like an organic like fix to a lot of things. And I'm not saying I've thought every single scenario through, but that's also why I keep bringing it up, because maybe one of you guys thinks about it and says like, oh no, there's a problem right here. Like, what about this, right? And then, maybe there are problems to it. But I've brought it up to so many FCs and everyone's like, yeah, actually that makes sense, right? And the stuff is already in the game with like plates, right?
Yeah. I'm in favor of. I would be in favor of something like that. Because it kind of goes to the core of the issue, I think, which is that hacks do those three things well, which is they tank really well with the ADC, they're really fast, and they have lots of range. I guess 4 things because they have good damage too. But I want there to be a trade-off for something, and if that's the way to make them trade off, and they lose the speed for that, then it sounds good to me. But just something I want to force hacks into a trade-off where, like, if you're gonna do a hack, I have no issue with AB zealots, for example, because they're really risky to use. So that's the kind of the trade-off. You're not doing a micro warp drive zealot and just kiting everybody, and you're just gonna leave as soon as you take 1 or 2 losses.
Yeah.
And so I think the same should be true for Eagles or for Munins or for Ishtars or Sacrileges, all the stuff that's been used. And basically, you have to choose something to trade off in order for your strategy to work.
So the thing is, when you hear the word heavy assault ship, right? You don't think of like that kitey thing. That's 100 km off, just throwing some dictors in to keep you tackled, and then just trying to like kite you and stuff. Like, I think the original design idea was like a ship that just goes in and brawls, right? Kind of. And it would just be nice to bring that back, to make, like, give an incentive to actually do that. And I think that would be one way to go in that direction
too. Most people in groups are going to run something that they can decommit from easily, just because no one likes to lose, and if you do lose, you don't want to lose by a lot. So even if we take away the speed or whatever, most groups and most people in this game, barring some other groups that will commit a lot more, always run AB. I think like 6 of the doctrines I run are all AB, and if I fucking get caught, I get caught. But
yeah.
I think that most people in this game are going to be like, if they don't want to lose, people don't want to lose in general. That's human nature. People are always going to run something in MWD. You go back in the day, you had MWD Shield Ishtars. Come on. And people want something they can decommit from if they start to lose, so that they don't lose by a lot or don't lose at all.
Yeah, and that's why I want there to be a disadvantage. For if you're going to run a comp that is going to be just decommitting right away, I either want you to have like lower damage, lower tank, or less range of some kind, right? Yeah, maybe you can hit 3 out of 4 of those, but you have to lose something in order to do it, is my mindset.
Yeah, just like Murray just said. Yeah, but if they want to be cowards in something that's objectively worse, that's fine, right? Because they have the choice.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
But the issue is, at the moment, it makes no sense to, for a lot of groups who are worried about losing fights. I mean, just in the meta. I mean, I can't blame people for taking advantage of the meta, right? Like, we do it as well. We have to. We have no choice, because in certain situations you have to do certain things that are going to win you the fight. And it's on, at this point in my mind, just to balance that out by taking away something from hacks or promoting a different type of playstyle through balance, because that's how we got here. Is we ended up with hacks that didn't have ADCs before. And I mean, how often were minions really used before ADC? They're still used, but not nearly as often, right?
Yeah.
Definitely not as much. Obviously not as much as not now.
I think only
still
Elo
used relatively well.
I think only Elo random on a semi-serious level.
Yeah, pretty much. And there were some other hacks, like even going back to those shield Ishtars, they were able to decommit, but at the same time, there were things that you could do to force them off. There was a little bit a time period there where I think everybody had knowledge between Ishtars, but there were counters to it that I remember. But they didn't have ADC, so the trade-off was, again, their tank really wasn't that great, especially after they lost a mid, I think, and that kind of took away from it.
Yeah, we still have shield Ishtars actually, because they trade really well, especially in the hack meta against the non-ADC holds that have like solid tank, like the command ships in those fleets and stuff like this. They run through that shit fast, and they're way cheaper, especially now. They're cheaper than the rest, so like it's our trading doctrine basically.
Any T2 ship right now is cheap because any T1 ship is lacking minerals.
Like a lot of my fights right now, and I'm sure Seddow probably the same, I am fighting pretty outnumbered a lot of times versus a group like, let's say, Civ Squad or Vanderlogs, who they group up, right? And then suddenly one of those groups, sure, we can match their numbers, and then the other one comes in and doubles their numbers. So now I'm at 2-1, and they're both in hack fleets. So if I'm going to fight that, I need something that's going to allow me to deal with hacks and at the same time survive them, which we can do, but it requires a lot more commitment from me in order to be able to do that, which I'm okay with, except for the fact, except for the fact
I'm
that
okay
hacks,
with dropping cabs. Yeah.
but they're able to just leave basically as soon as they start losing a few ships. And I'm committing like heavy to fight 2-1.
So the amount of times, it's been, okay, I'm flying Nightmares or I'm taking AB Legions or something like that into a fight, get into the fight, realize I'm outnumbered by maybe not 2-1, but like 1.5 to 1, and they're in, Munins or Serbs. And then, like, okay, I need to balance this out. All right, I'm going to drop a minnow and like 2 Haw Dreads with paints to apply to the hacks because, they have a low sig. Drop those, start to kill, and then it's like, oh, fuck, okay, they drop caps. Let me bail, and I can't beat their cap escalation, which I understand. You can't beat a group who's specifically trained. Like, I train and tell my guys, like, all right, you're getting a dread alt period. It has to happen. You can't out escalate some groups. That's just how the game is. But I commit a lot more is to the grid, which I guess I don't know, man. There's balance all over it, and the more I think of it, the more my head spins and
I
turns
understand.
into jello.
Yeah,
But it's like half the time it feels like I'm putting what could be a crap ton of value in this on the field and a lot of effort that people have worked towards getting, versus I murder an AB Eagle fleet or a hack fleet and then it's replaced in 4 hours.
yeah. I can't tell you how many Serbs I've killed at this point in the north. It's probably like just I don't know. I can't keep track at this point, but they replace them the moment they die. I mean, it's just effortless. But if
Go
we were to
back to
whelp a
the
Nightmare
big
fleet, if you
yeah.
whelp the Nightmare fleet or something, you don't get to just you typically don't undock it the same day, if that makes sense. But you can undock a Serb fleet right away, again, right after you whelp one.
The
Well,
amount of times where it's been like hack fights and you're bleeding hacks or something, and guys just reship, warp back.
Yeah, it happened to me the other day, where we were fighting Banderlogs, and we killed a total. The fight started with something like I think I had 17 Serbs, and they had near 30 sacrileges and like 8 guardians. We killed all the guardians. They all reshipped and came back 3 times total. We killed like 24 guardians.
was it Bandalogs?
Yeah, it was. It was, and
I'm telling
Artistry
you,
was there.
it's
Yeah,
the Russians.
wild.
The Russians are just crazy. They're like, we're in this fight. Fuck it. And they just fucking reship and I love it, right? Sometimes, yes, like you can't like no like I'm generalizing anyway here, right? Saying Russians.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
every Russian group has that mindset, but I would argue that a lot of Russian groups have like a similar mindset, right? I think it was also a Russian group we tackled. We tackled like a Haw Dread or 2, and they kept warping in what was it, Brutix navies onto our like mix kind of hack gang with 1 simi. And they kept warping in Brutix navies, but in like groups of like 5 to 10. We were only 10 dudes also, but they died 2 times already, and they warp in a 3rd time. They're like, this time it's gonna be different. It's like, it's craziness, right? And if they're just trying to free the dreads or whatever, but they still come out and fight. I think that's another thing that needs to be pointed out in general in EVE is the player mindset, right? It does play a big role. I was asked today, and I'm not sure if he's listening, by like an old player who is actually taking a break right now, asking me, what do you think about the state of EVE? And I'm like, oof. And in the same sentence, he said he doesn't want to steal my time. I'm like, dude, it's like, this is not easily explained, But I would say the state of EVE, I think from CCP perspective, right? I think it has not been as healthy in a while, right? That they're going in the right direction and stuff like this. So I can see it just get better but player mindset wise and looking at this war and stuff like this, that's a different story, right? I don't know. It always it's a complex kind of thing, and it plays a big role what people actually are willing to do, what people are willing to lose in order to defend their stuff and so on. And that's no clear answer. Or what do you guys think?
I think most people in EVE are a bunch of pansies. That's what I think. Leave it at that.
There's a lot of groups in this game who don't want to commit to a fight. I can't tell you how many times I'll be in a fleet that can project, right? So like I'm sure you all know that, like if you're in a Mac fleet and you can project really far, and then a really massive blob shows up and they have 80 mutants, you can still beat that, sure. But if they were actually in 80 battleships and they brawled you, and they have a similar cap escalation, they're probably going to win. But they're so in this mindset of like we have to kite, we have to just not lose any ships. There's a lot of mindset like that where like the FCs aren't. It doesn't feel like they're thinking like how do I actually win this fight. They're thinking how do I preserve my fleet.
Well, I just don't think there's that many good FCs left in the game. Period. I think a lot of them are just. I think a lot of them just. I think a lot of current FCs are just people who know how to run in circles and munins and call targets. That's about it. And you have your big block guys who are great FCs like Billy and ProGod and Darkshine's you Pando and a few of these other guys who are good FCs. Like I think High and Tau are great FCs because they know what they're doing and they know they've done a lot of different stuff. But I go to these other blocks like I go look at Goon, I go look at like Trigger Happy. I mean Trigger Happy's got some decent FCs, but like I just look at these other groups in the game and it's like all these fresh faces and new guys who all they run is hacks because that's all they know how to run because they just like to go in circles and pull targets.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, it's easy
but
if you. Oh, go on.
no, I was just about to say like it's not their fault really, right? So it's like it's all part of the hack meta, right? And I think
No,
the
I
second that would change, then FCs would change too. Like it's so I don't want to say easy, but you would be surprised how quickly people would be getting really good at FCing if there was an incentive to take something else out than MWD anchor up alpha this guy kind of thing. Oops.
like I grew
Still a
up
mumble.
my like I guess my like my highlight if you know me, my highlight was I was a big FC in the frat war. I did a lot of stuff and that was mostly all hack and munin stuff. And then I'd leave, go develop my own alliance, do a bunch of low sec fights, and you learn a whole different side of the game and a whole different style of FCing and things that I would never have thought of before or tried to think of. I just think there's a lot more to the game and a lot more to FCing that people miss out on because it's the hack meta, you know. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to throw shade at anyone or anything. Like I'm not trying to call most FCs in the game bad. I'm bad at moments. Everyone's bad at moments. I'm not a good FC. I just FC. But I think that I've learned a lot flying stuff other than hacks, and I think it's changed the whole way I look at the game, and especially fleet fights.
Yeah. Definitely.
You know,
I think that there were a lot of fights where when I was learning how to FC, it was a lot of fights where I think a lot of FCs these days, they're really used to just being in a hack fleet and you alpha. Everything you shoot, you alpha, right? And I came from a background where you're not going to necessarily kill a ship for the first 2 or 3 minutes. It's going to be a tug of war almost between your logistics and you calling primaries and positioning and how you actually set your fleet up. And you might not kill anything for a little bit, and then finally you have a breakthrough, and maybe it snowballs. Maybe they pull it back. There can be a lot of fights like that still. It's just less common because the mindset is so centered
I
around.
also think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just finishing up. Just centered around that hack, that alpha, where you're just
I
undocking
think
a large fleet
player
of alpha.
skill. I think player skill's down too in terms of like back in the day where it was these tug of war like brawls and you had to be quick about swapping. You had to worry about a lot more. And now it's okay. The guy gets alpha,
Yeah,
or you don't really see much switching back to targets unless you're the smaller group and the bigger group. The amount of times first started off broadcasting like Hugin, okay, he caught, move on to like a logic, kill a logic, move on to something else, it caught, and then swap back to the Hugin,
yep,
and then kill the Hugin that time. I think pilot skill, like logic skill, all this other stuff down because I mean in big fights, if you're in a semi and a munin fleet, okay, this guy we somehow caught him because he ADC'd. Okay, we somehow caught this guy. Oh, that guy just got alpha, nothing I can do. But I mean, that's just it's not. It may not be the player's fault either. I think it's just what we're exposed to right now. I
yeah,
think
and
it's
that's what I
just.
mean. I'm just going off what Pando said. It's not necessarily their fault because the meta is undocking 50 mutants, and you're gonna alpha every primary until you lose enough mutants or until they warp off, basically.
God,
And
I
it's
sound
just
like a douchebag, but yeah.
no.
yeah.
Well, so I think someone said in chat there, resist nerf kind of crippled that style of play, like the tug of war. And one thing I would actually really vouch for right now is I'm down. I'm glad that super HP was nerfed and things like that. I don't mind that at all. but I would not be sad if the resist nerf was reverted for subcaps, because it would give us back viable tech 3s again and some other ways to deal with hacks, because hacks didn't suffer nearly as much from that resist nerf.
Like
In
the
fact, they
Loki
benefited a lot.
T3Cs. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Lokis and Legions I
agree.
would love to have back.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I know.
But
So
the whole counter argument to that people would always be is like, oh, they're just flying. They have higher SP and they're spending more ISK on their doctrine ship, and it's a complete counter to like the Munins. But I feel like that's a valid investment to be able to put in
Yeah. I mean, it'd be a
into
800 mil to a bill sometimes, depending on the tech 3 layout you
yeah.
run. Maybe a little cheaper.
And I think, and I mean, like Villy's had a good argument to it, and when I talked to him about it, it was like, okay, well then you end up in the old PL of old, where like the high SB and rich guys beat on everyone else, but like I don't want to say that's the best, like that's like how the
but
game
nowadays
should be, 'cause I
everyone
don't
is
think
high
it's
SP
50.
rich.
Exactly, to the skill injectors, and I think that the way the map is set up and all this stuff, and the way politics are, the way the blocks are, like even if like a high SP group, like we used to run Lokis as wrecking crew for like we like I saw we had a fleet of 120 Lokis for like the D-Tech G4s, our armor timer, like before, like a month before the nerf hit, and we fought like against 200 Munins. We won the fight, but we lost the ISK war.
Yeah.
And it's like we're putting a lot more on the table to win the objective, but we still lost the ISK war. And I get that it's a viable counter to Munins, but like at some point, man, I feel like you have to have something. If you're not going to change the way the Munin works, then you need to have a more expensive choice with higher SP that can
No.
counter that.
Yeah.
But
And
we're running in circles on Munins versus
well, the same is true, but I want to vouch for tech 3s here, because the Lokis were also AB fit. It's not like they're MWD Lokis running circles around everybody. You still have to commit with that doctrine. Legion was the same. You could dual prop it, but for the most part, you still had to commit. It's not like it's that fast with an MWD. And then also, what I really miss from the game is Proteus, a viable Proteus that actually worked as DPS would be really nice to have back.
or Tengus. I miss the day of Shield Tengus.
Yeah. Well, if they redid the resist nerf, I think we could get away with Shield Tengus, but that's just personal opinion. I think if a lot of the T3s would come back, if we revert the resist nerf and just maintained the super EHP nerf, basically, I think that would be great.
I get that, and I think the whole reason CCP nerfed T3Cs to where they're at is because they want them to be like solo ships, not really fleet doctrine ships. But like, come on, they're fun to fly and they look cool, and
Yeah.
like there are ways to do them to have viable counters,
Yeah.
to Munins or something, to fight outnumbered. And I think that fighting outnumbered is something that's undervalued in this game.
Yeah, I know. So
Yeah, I
at the
can't speak
time,
fully. Oh, sorry.
I was just saying, at the time of that patch where like basically T3s were like kind of removed from the meta, at that time I didn't see it as big of a problem, right? Everyone agreed, yeah, for all the T3s, the Loki was just so much better than the other ones. But was it the go-to thing for everyone? No, you didn't see everyone flying Lokis all the time because they were expensive, right? And we had a Loki doctrine too, and we only picked like the right fights for them. We didn't bring them out as our standard thing, right? Be it hunting and then refitting, which was interesting too, right? Burn to the Destiny, like travel fit, and then have mobile depots or Nestor and then refit, and you actually have a Loki fleet on grid with the rockers. It's way easier than Kikis, obviously. Or be it like a spec tanked one against like Feroxes or Eagles, right? Which happened to us like at least twice or 3 times that we tanked actually twice the numbers. We tanked them because of the spec tanks, right?
Right.
We still run a Legion fleet. I know Wolf, you already yours, but we still run ours every now and then, and we combat refit all the time.
Yeah, I can't speak too much for Volta because I haven't been part of Volta that long, but definitely one of the big reasons that we left there was because of the resist nerf, because we can't run the Legions that we were running, we can't run the Lokis we were running versus a really large Munin blob plus their caps on grid, right? Like the big advantage of them was, and out of there was that they were tanky enough, and at the same time you could use them pretty effectively against these Munin blobs, and then you just gut their EHP basically. And so what can you do? So again, it all circles back to Munins. But
yeah.
Probably to move on to hunting since we've been on.
It's very N+1.
But one last thing about Munins is, I think why people are a little bit frustrated is they don't see a patch like coming, right? It's not getting fixed anytime soon. because CCP has actually touched them twice. If you remember, they changed some stuff.
I
I
do-
forgot what it was, but like minimal changes in all directions, and it didn't have much impact. Right? They're still very strong. Yes, Eagles are kind of taking over, which is also something everyone
Also,
predicted,
CCP
right?
I think CCP wants the publicity of the war, and I think if they nerf mutants, they're afraid that the war will not be as public.
Well, to be fair to CCP in this case, all the CSM guys
I think
asked them to not change anything specific like that. Like a doctrine change like that would be
That's fair.
definitely in that category, right? So maybe
Yeah.
they have that patch ready to go, and they're just waiting for the war to end, like a lot of people probably.
I can't
So
wait.
maybe, hey, maybe we're getting drowned in awesome changes right when the war ends, right? Who knows? If
Yeah.
it ever ends. I think this war's
So-
gonna,
Yeah,
be on for a while, I certainly.
if it ever is.
when this war ends, the game's going to be in a much better state. Period. Not because of
Well,
everyone being no longer blue, not because of the big block fights. I think that everyone will go focus on themselves independently for a while and create a much more conflicts over the map than just one big one. You know.
Is it depending on who wins, or do you think no matter who wins?
I mean, I don't care. I think no matter who wins, I think the game's going to be completely different after the war. So I think the whole map's going to shift, which we sort of know already. It's what one side wants to do. I could give less. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do not like the way Goods build up their empire and how they just turtle up. And it's the same thing Pratt's doing. I don't like it either. I think it's bad for the game.
But it's the
I don't
same
like
thing
Goons for
Legacy
that, but,
did
like,
and FanFam
yeah,
and everyone
I
did.
agree. That's the same.
It's the same thing, just a little bit more
but
efficient, I would
put
say.
Goons, more efficient to a much bigger degree. And I mean, I'd like for Goons to die only because I feel like Goons dying ends this war quicker than them pushing Legacy all the way back because Legacy's already pushed far enough. But we won't get into the war. I just want the war to be over. Period.
yeah,
I think the game will be in a much better state post-war than current war. I think people will come back too.
yes and no for us
Hmm.
in Volta. We're sort of like the meme about the Simpsons kid on the bus saying I'm in danger as soon as the war's over, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not that focused on the war. I'm mostly focused on the meta, right? Like this meta, these fights, things like that. Just wanted I think going back to what you said, Pendo, you said the mutants were touched. They were, but that came out at the same time as the resist nerf, so they lost a little bit of alpha, and the amount of alpha they lost was like 200 total. So it obviously was way outweighed by the amount of resist you lose from the patch. So they just benefited, and they only lost 4k HP because they only used one resist mod. They only actually lost 4k HP on the mutant, anyways. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's exactly
At the
what
end of-
everyone said at the time.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I could care less what either side of that war wants. I just want content for my guys and for myself because that's all I care about. You know?
I don't want to say same, right? I do care who wins to a degree, but at the end of the day, I'm not the heck meta guy. I'm not interested in these fights. Like fuck this. Please leave me alone. Right?
Yeah.
The fucking hacks.
But you've been having fun during the war.
Yeah.
But you're having fun during the war now, aren't you?
It's a bit of a struggle
Pando,
too.
Both of you now.
Well,
I mean,
you guys know. Like, so you're talking about hunting and stuff, right? Like this.
Yeah, well, like right now, let's say I've seen the fights you've had in Scalding Pass, etc., right?
Yeah.
And then obviously Pando being around, a curse now. You're still having some fun during the war.
It was a good step to curse. Like I wasn't too convinced about the ESO thing and stuff because like deploying there for a week or whatever, or like I think we had it mapped out as like a 2-week thing, depending on how it goes, right? And it was just too far from ESO. But we wanted to support the guys down there a little bit that were putting in work, right? Because they, they've been doing good shit. And I wasn't too much into that, but the curse thing, it's definitely more fun because there's like people our size there, right? We don't have to fight 4 fleets that are like 250 each. We can just, fight one-on-one.
You will next weekend, it seems like.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I mean, G-O is our like home base, has always been. I mean, with the clone changing shit, right? We were a little bit worried because we are actually like, that's our staging technically, right? And then oh shit is our forward kind of stager to get a little bit closer to the front. And with the clone stuff, the G-O station doesn't have a cloning, right? So if you can't set your death clone there. But I'm glad it's reverted now, so we can do that. So the plan's still all intact, because that would have fucked us a little bit. But yeah, let's see what they wanna bring, right? I mean, that's I don't want to end up in like a meta show kind of thing and spin things here or something.
No.
But that is the part of the plan, is to drag hostiles to like catch or curse or whatever. Right? That's definitely that's number one objective. So
my point being that I think both of you may be more Seddow at this point than you, because you just recently moved, but have benefited a bit from the war going on, just because these other groups are.
Don't get me wrong. I've definitely had ups and downs from it. Ups of being like, okay, there's a lot of things I can hunt because most everything's in Dell. Benefits of it, I've had a lot of people leave their alliances and groups to join my group because they are tired of the blue donut. Like, Dreadball has definitely grown throughout this whole time, and we're on a good pace. But there was definitely, and especially in U.S. time zone, which is like our alliance's main time zone, really, there hasn't been much content. Like, I tried to force some fights out of Fire in U.S. time zone. I murdered a whole Eagle fleet with Ravens once, and then I never got anything out of them. And so I started anchoring Astros and Fortizars deep in their space. They let them anchor because it was U.S. time zone. Like, I put in a lot of effort to try to force fights that never happened, and then the only fights I get are in EU time zone where I'm massively outnumbered. And so it's like, it's definitely had its ups, but I think the downs are way worse. Like, I can't find any fights that in fleet fights in U.S. time zone, even though like they aren't ready to commit. Most of the U.S. time zone is just hunting Amicia,
Are you not getting fights out of, let's say, Fed Up? Or, they're obviously a US time zone group.
They're basically, they've been afraid of me. They were told not to fucking fight me every time I tackle a Ripple. They were told just to let it die. We tackled a Super last night, and I tackled it with Legions. It was like 15 of us, because it was like 0700, like 2 a.m. Eastern time. They proceeded to ping out and say, okay, it's dead, don't worry about trying to save it, before I'd even put like a dread or two on it. So instead of just dropping 3, I just dropped all of them and then just moonwalked out. They don't even contest me anymore. And I get that, like, because like, the few times we have fought, they lose. But I mean, they aren't going to fight me. I can't force that.
Yeah. Also, to be clear, somebody said in chat, are you surprised about the RUTZ alliance not wanting to fight USTZ? Firecoat has US time zone alliances, by the way. They do. They fought them in US time zone.
I've seen Fire form up 100 dudes in US time zone. For the AB Eagle fleet I fought, they had like 70. Like, they can definitely do it. It's just them time zones taking me out, because I get they want to focus on their own thing, and like, I guess I'm distracting them from their war or whatever. But I don't fucking care. I want content, and I don't want to go across the fucking galaxy to do it. At the end of the day, all I care is about content. I don't care who I piss off in the meantime. If I get steamrolled out of the space I own, whatever, I don't care.
But Fire is an interesting case if you look at it like from a war perspective, right? I think they have benefited a lot. And I think every hunter in the game, like hunting groups, and you both are fairly active hunters, I would say. Everyone had kind of eyes in Oasa. Everyone noticed that Oasa is going crazy, right? But you can't really contest those guys. They're too big, too organized, too compact, and the time zone is just China time zone, so it's very hard to get the numbers to contest them. And then you have Fire.
China time zone are them. So.
Yeah, and then you have Fire that like it's like not the biggest group, and they are out mining a lot. Right? They have rockouts out all the time, supers reading and all that stuff. They're fairly organized and stuff like this. I don't say like the quality is definitely there, and they're one of the few groups that contest the Kiki fleets, even when we outnumber them. Sometimes we show up with 120 Kikis, and they just show up with 50 Hecates and stuff, and they do their best to save. And often they do, right? Often they do save some rockouts.
What I've seen them do now is they get like 15 Hulks and then Rorks, and but they don't siege the Rourke.
They just boost.
They have it there. They just boost. The amount of times I'm like, okay, there's Rourks in here. There's Rourks in here. and then we put sabers in system, warp to the Athenor, and the Rorks are there, but they're on the Athenor, or he's just warping off the rock because all he's been doing is boosting. He hasn't been
Yeah.
doing anything else. And they warped to Possus. They fucking love Possus.
I know.
So I can't tackle them. I can't tackle them if they're aggressed. I can't do any of that shit from boost. So sort of a shitty situation.
Yeah, so I don't think it's like too shitty of a situation. I mean, so we actually, talked to each other because we knew about that one moon coming out. For those who missed it, I actually streamed it yesterday. Actually, because there was some OPSEC, not too OPSEC to be honest. I'll revert that and put it back on for everyone to watch because I checked it. I didn't talk about anything OPSEC that they didn't know already anyway. But so who wants to watch that fight, they can do that at some point. But basically what we did was we worked together because we knew they will have that moon coming out, an R64 that's pretty juicy, and they usually put 10, 15, sometimes 20 raw cards on a real juicy moon. But they're also very careful, rolling all the wormholes and watching all the channels. I know they can read our pings. So for me, it's very tricky to undock and then get them tackled and then hold tackle on them because they're so fast to respond with Hecate's and stuff like this. Try holding point on a raw card when there's 50 Hecate's formed and they're trying to, kill you. You're never going to save them, right? So the idea was, what if we involve another group or two that just gets the tackle, right? So Seddow had a couple dictors he pre-staged.
It was way too early for me to do anything else.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's 1600 was the moon, and they're quick, right? So we can't show up late, and then they're all done and already warped off. So we had to form 1600, which is too early for Seddow's group for Dread Bomb. But at least you could bring some dictors, right? So you had some dictors ready to go, and then Wolf and the Volta guys were supposed to get initial tackle together with you and then hold tackle, right? Which is the tricky part. Obviously hold tackle, and then I will undock and get that ASAP. And it kind of worked out, right? It all worked out. There was a couple problems with it, as always, wormholes run out and all that stuff. It's oof, suddenly chaos. And
we
it's
had
always,
a really nice wormhole.
Yeah, we did, but it wasn't big enough for all too
Yeah.
much. That's the thing, right? So there's I don't know how many medium-sized wormholes there are, but I think it's 20 different types, or one of them. One of them is 100 million. Everything else is 500 mil or 1 bill holes, right? So guess what type of wormhole that one was? That was the 100 mil. So you couldn't squeeze your fleet through. 500 mil would have been perfect for you guys. But I couldn't scout the other side because my neutered scout would have scared them, right?
Yeah.
So when we finally scouted it, I was fuck. Let's send you guys somewhere else. And your guys were probably annoyed. And I wondered the entire time,
they're fine.
But what were you thinking, right? We have never worked together. So you were probably thinking, shit, what is this dude doing?
Well, so I know Haiwanto a little bit, and he does nothing but sing you praises. And so you're all hyped up for me, and your route was really good. I was like, okay, this is going well. This is good. This is good stuff. And then we were sitting on the entrance to this C1 wormhole. And then we finally scout it, and it's oh yeah, the mass is only 100 mil. So I was like, all right, Riff. I thought we were just done, but no, you had everything prepared and it was good. And I was disappointed because I was like, oh man, I don't know how we're gonna get there now because we're gonna have to. We had another route, but it was too far. It's we could go back to this wormhole that's 13 jumps away, but that's a pretty long time to hold a Rourke. But you had another route that was only 7 jumps, so that worked out really well. Drifter holes are broken.
What?
I don't want to be saying
Shut
that, but.
up.
But yeah, that was easy.
I think they were
really easy.
It requires a lot of effort.
Yeah,
it does. It requires a lot of effort.
It requires a lot of effort.
Requires a lot of effort.
Yeah. And it allows you to actually kill some crabs, which the game needs badly right now. So.
Yeah, no, it is good. I liked using them, and obviously you having them mapped out for us was really nice, and it worked out really well because of that. And it was a lot of effort, obviously, to do that. So no, it went well. I think outside of that one hiccup, which I'm glad you didn't blow your neutral scout and scare them to check the mass. I'm also glad we didn't just jump a fourth of our fleet in because it only had 100 mass, 100 mil mass. But yeah, it worked out well.
Yeah, I mean that's that comes with experience, right? So if I was like, or if we were all unexperienced with this kind of shit, we probably would have just jumped and winged it, and then you would have been stuck with like 2/3 of your fleet would have been in the wall and saying, "What the fuck, Wolf? Like, what are we doing here?" And that's the worst. I think it's
Yeah.
the worst case for an FC to get your fleet stuck in a wormhole and not having a good route to them and stuff. Oh, that's so fucking painful.
That's one of those
Yeah.
pressures of FCing where you're just sort of like you're waiting around for something really nice like that potentially, because it could have been potentially 15 Rorquals or it could be none. Luckily we got some, but it's kind of like everybody's kind of wondering like, okay, what are we doing? Why are we sitting around this
Patience
wormhole for
is
30
like the
minutes?
key thing in this thing, because to be
Oh yeah.
something me and some of my top hunters had a conversation with some of our hunters last night, because we killed a hell last night. But like some of my top hunters, I was talking to them because for some reason I was up at 2 a.m. local time, and so were they, and we're just chilling talking, and it's like crabs are idiots. Like people, especially super pilots, are just weird. You can never predict their movements. We sat and watched a hell before, or a Nyx, I don't remember what it was, a super who ejected from his Nyx, got into like a Iteron, went and picked up all his DSTs, dropped it off in the fort, and then went back and warped to his warped and got back in his super or whatever. Like it's so unpredictable sometimes, unless it's like a bot, that like you never really know that like, okay, all right, his next site I'm gonna go tackle him, or I'm gonna go tackle him now. You don't know.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you're watching one with like a cloaky camper, which we do a lot, like it's just you don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. They're very unpredictable when it comes to supers, which is why I don't think supers die that much unless it's just an idiot super warping into like someone else or not being aligned out. A good super pilot almost never gets caught. It's very hard to do it. And
It
the
is.
only the things to catch now are just Rorquals, but I mean, like I said, XIX doesn't even siege theirs anymore. Whenever I see them, except for that moon yesterday.
I
But like,
tried to catch 3 more Rorquals because when we went home from that fight, we had a wormhole in Detroit that was like 2 jumps from our staging. So I gave it a few hours. We had another timer, and I tried to go back for 3 more Rorquals who were mining directly next door to that wormhole, but they weren't sieged.
Yeah, they're still sieged. Like XIX, I mean, and that's another thing, right? So some people like XIX might just lose some roll coins, but they're still making bank. You know what I mean? Like if they would
Oh,
stop
yeah.
using roll coins, I don't think that would be like as efficient for them.
See,
Like
you should have
no,
done.
like
they survive
the
more
amount
often
of
than they
times I
die.
go through and see Hulks and porpoises or something, man, just like, and then they instantly warp off as soon as you enter a system. Golly, like last night, I moved one of my neutral Sino characters into a system, saw 4 porpoises and 24 Hulks, warped off, got safe immediately. I just can't do anything about it. I can't stop them from grabbing.
Well, when we killed all that stuff, I think the final total was around 21 bill. I'm pretty sure they just replaced all of that instantly by just continuing to
Yeah,
mine. If they just
I
mine
don't
that
think they're
belt,
too
it's all
worried
replaced.
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
nothing.
so and then also I saw them show up with a fleet. All right, so after that, they showed up with a fleet on your citadel, right, Seddow? On your fort?
They anchored a fort in a system across from a fort I have in their space in Scouty Pass, and then they went to the fort that I was killing in Great Wildlands, bounced around on grid, not wanting to end Munins because they couldn't really get on grid with us because we had carriers with fighters on our fort to their fort, my nightmare fleet, and then we brought in a friendly Mac fleet as well. They just sort of bounced around grid. They made sure their fort anchors, went to our fort, it died. They killed in Nazu and then left, and then they went to your timer.
Yeah, so what I was going to like getting at was like I'm not sure if that was a coincidence timing wise or if they took that like super personal or whatever. Right? They might have taken that personal that we have been haunting them a little bit.
I can tell you right now that they fucking hate you, and that like they've like ever since you moved to Curse, they've had permanently eyes on you, and like they watch you like a hawk because they're afraid of you.
Wow,
So like
that's
I
just
think it's
smart
perfect.
though.
Yeah, I mean it's smart, but like the amount of times like they just don't watch what I'm doing sometimes. Like it's even though I feel like I've pissed them off enough now at this point. But like,
Mm.
they're definitely, it's something personal with you, Pando. Like they want you out of curse, you know.
Seddo's just a mean guy.
Well,
Clearly a mean guy. So
well, if
They-
there's any XIX guy
they-
listening, I can just say like there's nothing. But I actually like XIX on the all the Fire Coalition guys.
I think they're retarded. Sorry, excuse my
I think-
language. But
I like them. Like if I would argue, if everyone in the game had a similar mindset and would be out doing shit and stuff like they do, I think the game would be a better game. That's my statement.
that's fair.
On
I
average,
think,
they're better.
I like their content mindset. I just think some decisions they make are pretty stupid. But
But some decisions I make are pretty stupid. You fucked up
Yeah.
before. Like everyone does that. It's like whatever.
Oh, no, I've never messed up. Don't know what you're talking about.
Oh,
I don't know.
Wolf is perfect.
I took a group. I took a group that left Fire and like because of a bunch of drama and the way they operate, like leadership structure in Fire. And from my end of it, of the group I took in after them explaining everything to me and like showing me screenshots and logs and stuff, their leadership is just very, very demeaning and not really like if you're not in XIX, you're not doing exactly, it just doesn't. That's why I don't like them because like, and maybe I guess it's bias. Well, it is going to be biased, but the way they treated a group that ended up joining my group was just terrible from what I saw. I think their leadership is terrible.
Well, don't you have?
I like
You would
their
have more information than me or Pando because you were part of a group that was blue to them, and you very briefly staged out of their citadels in Innsmouth.
Yeah, still
Okay.
do.
Well, there you go.
What?
But yeah, so you know a little bit more. But I don't know much about XX leadership. All I know about Fire is having fought them and reading their pings. And what I definitely know is that when they want to fight, they will fight. But their mindset is they, in my opinion, is they want to fight over, the typical null stuff, which is like protecting your income source or whatever it is, allowing you to continue to work mine. Like that's what they're trying to fight over, right? So
Yeah,
and then
but
outside of that, they're gonna try to
I
avoid it
worked
unless
with-
they can just.
I
stop.
worked with Carr and Constantine a lot, like during the fraternity war, and I really like those guys. Those are good
Okay.
guys. Those two are good guys. But the rest of that leadership in there, I've never heard anything positive about the rest of the leadership. It's always been negative. Carr was a
Alright.
great guy to work with, but yeah, I think he quit the game finally. I don't know.
I remember that name actually. But honestly, I've never talked
I've
to any of
heard
them.
that, but I
so-
don't know. You don't speak Russian.
No, well, I actually like you probably know like if you are a hunter, you probably remember Moonpire, right? So he joined
Oh my
us.
god, yeah, I do.
He joined us
I used
actually.
his cloaky campers when he was camping crap. Like I used
Yes.
them all the time.
So like you know what? Like whenever we tackled the guy, like hardest rocks in the universe. If you see Moonpire rock on mine, fuck, you need twice the
Don't
numbers
do
to
it.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
Like
it's
30
fucking
he done
ridiculous.
30 rocks on his own. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so ridiculous.
And he was always on
Yeah,
point,
I've
right?
done it.
So I wasn't too mad when he
When
said
I
like,
killed
"Hey,"
a-
Pratt moved out of
like
Go
he convoed me one day and said like, "Hey, like, I've done the extreme PVE stuff now. Like, I kind of want to change my playstyle a little bit more towards PvP and use my numbers and stuff like this. What do you think? Can I join?" I'm like, kind of want to still kill your rockers, It's like it was like a little challenge to me always, right? And he wasn't the bitter type either, right? He kind of enjoyed that too. I felt like, and he got away with so much. Like other groups would just
When
fall
Pratt
apart,
moved to-
but that guy
when
gets.
Pratt moved to Oasa, he cloaky camped all of them, and he was the one who got me all of our targets when they first moved to Oasa. He's a very nice guy.
Yeah, he's a good
So,
dude, really. Yeah.
I remember I tackled him a few times when I was living in drones and I was in Tri, and I never killed him. And then we tackled him right after I joined Volta. We tackled him, and I think he got away again. He just is fucking.
He
I don't know.
is slippery, right? He knows all the
Yeah.
tricks in the book too, right? I'm not gonna spill him here. Actually, there's probably not a whole lot of rocker miners listening anyway. But like the stuff with like, be it jump units, right? If you have a lot of rockets on grid, we can't run after all jump units all the time, right? So if all those rockets drop jump units all the time, one of them is gonna online and then boom, you've got one less rocket tackled and he's out.
I just don't get how he multi-boxes that many. That's
I
what's amazing.
have no idea. Like I've seen his setup, like how it works. like basically he's using Eve
I've done it
preview.
with 6 before when I was in test, and I couldn't do any more 6.
No, so what he does is you have one main screen in the middle, right? You don't use the entire screen. So imagine there's like a one box in the middle, and then he has like super small previews in the bottom and all that stuff, right? And then he moves them up and down, like they're all in a row and stuff, up and down for certain things, right? Let's say, all right, these are raw coins. He puts them all to the left, 5 next to each other. And if one of them is panicked, he moves them up or whatever, right? So you can always see what's happening on each of them. And with Cloaky Campers, it's a similar thing, right? So, oh, there's a rock called Seer Mining, right? Boom, he moves them up, so he knows, like, okay, if I click on this, let's see what's like what targets are there and stuff. So that's kind of how he organizes it, right? It's quite interesting, to be quite honest, right?
Yeah. I also remember a few times I would tackle or fire Rorqual, and maybe they have a response fleet that would come save him, and then right after that Rorqual would jump out, Moonpire would jump his Rorquals in. Obviously they PvP,
Yeah.
but like, God.
Yeah.
It's funny though.
We caught him, like, I think we killed him twice, and we killed just as many times. We killed everything else around him, which is funny, right? We tackle rock
Yeah.
coins, everything else dies, but we can't fucking crack this rock coin, so we leave the rock coin.
I
Or
tried
like,
a few times to go for him, but he'd always be done with his belt before I got fully set up.
yeah, he's slippery and like fucking well tanked when you tackle him. But then also we had like him tackled, and there's a super and stuff, like supers and faxes. You know how hard those are to crack, right? But we killed the super easier than his fucking rock coins. So shout out to Moonpire. Hardest rocker.
Mm.
That would also always be in that space. That's also like, that comes also with like experience hunting and stuff. When you have people like Victor pilots and so on that have a lot of experience, they would tackle a rocker, and if you're in like space there and like Deterate or whatever, or in Smother, they would instantly say, okay, this is Moonpire, right? Or this is not Moonpire. This is probably like this is a different corp and stuff. So it would play a big
Hunting
role in what we do, right?
Hunting at our size and what we hunt, sort of thing, the way we hunt, like requires a huge support team. It's hard to do it all on your own. Like I have one guy who does. Whenever we go hunting, we usually have like 3 to 4 guys all doing specific stuff, and if one of them messes up or misses it, it doesn't work out. But I have one guy who fills like 3 to 4 of those roles every single time, and you can have those really useful guys, or you can have
Yeah.
that support team around you. I have those. We're a smaller group, but usually we punch heavy, so it's like I have the guys who will put in a lot of effort and do 4 to 5 things at once to make sure it happens, instead of individual guys doing all this other sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Shout out to the warmer crew that I'm always using. That there's a couple dudes and dudettes always helping mapping wormholes, like the wormholes we used, right? And on demand, always around, like people doing special things. Then you have hunters, like shout out to Schwo, right? He is always around, keeping eyes everywhere. And now in lockdown, like he has so much time. That, like, I don't know.
Paper Bag from Test, who when I was running Goku fleets was like my guy. That guy
Paper
would
Bag is a
always
good
run the
dude.
uniform.
Yeah,
He's
I
a
can
very
tell.
good dude. I love that guy. Very nice guy.
Yeah, I had him on.
Very useful and very nice.
I had him on ages ago. Should have him on again. I think I had him on twice.
One was with me. He was there with us. Back
Yeah.
when I was still in Test. Yeah.
Yeah, and one was with support FCs very early on, where I had Tiana on, Paper Bag, and someone else. I forgot. But yeah, also another important, and I think that's with Ari, exactly. Ari was on. That's also gonna be like, I think next week's episode is gonna be Logi FCs, most likely.
Let me give you William Weast.
Is he a Logi FC?
Yeah. XBL on DFC.
Oh, I
Worked with
already
Tiana
had
a lot.
like, yeah, exactly. I already had Tiana on the list, and possibly Rain, because they're also good friends. And then
I don't even
Miranda
know
is
if Rain
learning if
plays anymore.
Rain. I think she does. I saw
I
her
don't
on
know if she
Grid.
played anymore. I thought she.
Oh yeah.
I always see her doing shows instead of actually playing.
Well, she still got like a lot of experience in it. So it would just be interesting, I think. But yeah. I don't know how I got here. But yeah, so what do you guys think, like, what were the biggest challenges when you go hunting and all that stuff? And with the core things, because that's originally actually what I thought would be interesting for people to get a little bit insight on. So when we
Being
started
able to
coding.
beat the response.
Yeah, you talking about the response?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just saying
Yeah.
that, like, the hardest thing probably for me is not finding targets. It's either killing them fast enough or being able to fight the response speed and kill them. I think that's my hardest part.
Yeah. Even the other day, we were waffling a little bit. I was gonna probably take the fight, but I remember we were waffling a little bit because we were looking at the staging when we tackled those 2 Rorquals, and we were in AB Zealots, and they started talking Macarials. Kind of iffy. Kind of iffy if we can deal with that. If they
and
drop
then you
in
kept
packs and
asking.
carriers as well.
You kept asking, how many jumps
I was
out?
like, "Where are
How
you,
many jumps out?
Pando?
I was
Where?"
like, fuck.
Yeah, well, because I was trying to. Yeah, okay. So here's some insight for other groups. Then, when you're working with a group like with Pando here, if Pando undocks too early, they're gonna be gone anyways. So when we got the tackle, and then I burned in my fleet and was basically forcing them to bring a response, Pando's then moving to us, but Pando's wormhole collapsed.
You know what? So I explained that on stream yesterday too. So you know what happened, right? We had the wormhole lined up. That was fairly close. That was like one Titan bridge.
Yeah.
Titan was already locked in, ready to go. We only had to undock, take the Titan bridge right on the wormhole, then warp over, take the next wormhole, and we would be like 5 jumps out. It would have been very fast.
Yeah.
Right? So, but we were waiting for more rockets to show up. Right? It was only 2 rockets. We were like, we kind of wanted 10 plus, right? That's what we aimed for. And in that time, we were out reffing shit. So we were out reffing an Aspel just to like an alibi kind of alibi. What do you call it in English? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like an activity, so people wouldn't say like, oh yeah, Init is out hunting. So I undock Munins, which I usually never fly. Right? I don't like Munins, so
Yeah.
I never fly Munins, but I pinged out for Munins and Toasters, just so people all think like, okay, they're doing some curse stuff, catch, whatever, right? So we go out, we go into catch, and we start reffing an Aspel and a Fortizer from, I don't even know who, Testo, so. But you know what they did? They just pinged out in it undocked 100 dudes. They didn't even mention that we went with Toasters and Munins. I was like, fuck,
Right.
like, come on, put that info in there, like, make them feel all safe and cozy, right? But no, in this case, they just, no, usually they post or they ping, Init is undocking Kikis, they're hunting or so. But in this case, they just went with Init undocking. That was weird.
So every Monday, Fed Up Mines and Rorquals, like one of their moons, or they try to mine Rorquals, like, and I didn't hit them for like a month and a half. I sort of had a semi agreement with them that like I was gonna stop hitting them on Mondays at least. And so what they did is on Mondays they always have eyes on my stagings. And one time, like, I think we had a moon to mine, and I undocked like 30 Rorquals, and they went red saying that we undocked a bunch of caps and jumped them out. And I was like, okay. It was fucking hilarious to watch. Like, it's just the amount of times that they like just no matter what we do. Like, I think there was like another FC in Dreadwell who like took out like a Brutix Navy fleet, and like they immediately went red as soon as they undocked, thinking it was for us. It's like every time we undocked, they thought it was for them versus us like doing something else.
And in this case, we still did get Rorquals. I don't know why, right?
Yeah.
All the others were scared, and then anyways. But we got them, and when I burned my fleet, we actually had to burn through JTech Z, which was their staging. And when I jumped in, I jumped ahead of my fleet, and they were at like 120 in local. And so then I'm thinking, and Pando had just said, "Oh man, my wormhole just collapsed."
Yeah, because we waited so long for more rockets to show up. We knew the wormhole was EOL, but I'm like, okay, as an entry, we can still use it. And we had a Sino right on it. And he's like, yeah, it's still here, it's still here, it's still here. So I'm fine to use it, right? The second you said, like, you went for tackle, and I said, go, everyone undock, he said, like, yep, wormhole's gone. I was like, fuck. So now it wasn't the Titan bridge in 5 jumps. Now it was 5 jumps, a drifter wormhole, and 7 jumps. And you had
And
to hold
I'm
tackle.
used to yeah, and we had the fleet there. We got the fleet there. We started shooting the Rorquals. We weren't going to break them with just zealots. We only had like 21 zealots, and I'm used to fire response fleets because I've tackled them before in EU, and the responses were often 50, 60, 80 units depending on how prepared they were or not prepared. And luckily it was like 20 max, so that worked out a lot better for us, and gave us enough time. And we ended up taking that fight on the Athenor. We warped off for a second, and then we came back. But my biggest worry was I didn't want to feed the whole zealot fleet before the rest of your fleet was able to get there, in case they actually did drop all the facts and carriers and just push us off, because 20 max is still no joke in terms of DPS. So carriers and facts on top of that makes it a bit of a more challenging fight, but it worked out well. You guys made it. They started warping off before you even got there. We were slowly killing them. They weren't killing us, luckily. So yeah, worked out well.
Yeah, I think we got a little lucky
We
there.
could have gone
Unlucky
yeah.
and lucky. Right? I was like,
I mean,
shit.
I had to start bleeding sabers when you warped off so that they would stay tackling.
Yeah, I was still telling people to bubble them. We came back pretty quickly, but yeah, that's the thing, is like, it's like, fuck it, let's just go, right? Let's just go, just take it, just take the risk, whatever. If we
Yeah.
win, we get the works, right? If we lose, I lose a few zealots, whatever.
Yeah, I must say that was a good call on your part, timing wise and all that stuff. Like, we were still, I don't know, 5-6 jumps out, and you're like, okay, we're going back in, right? And it felt a little early at the time. I was like, ooh, yeah, maybe, but it was perfectly timed, right? So you went back in, took the fight a little bit, and they saw us coming, right? So they disengaged early, which then held tackle. And then obviously, so we had like 15 dreads or so in total, and we dropped 5 to maybe get a response, but at the same time, we couldn't have like escalated to a crazy degree anyway. But we kind of tried to squeeze more out, but they were smart enough to say like, maybe not go too sloppy, right? And then they just accepted it, and then hunted us with Hecates again, right? The fucking Hecates.
Yeah, they warped in with Hecates, and then they detethered for about 5 seconds and warped off. So
well, they hunted us to the wormhole. I'm not sure if you probably haven't.
Oh, did they?
Seen it. Yeah, they hunted us all the way back to the wormhole. But I'm not sure if I should explain the drifter wormhole mechanics. I've seen Ron do it before. Try to explain how the drifter wormholes work, and he's like a little off. Right? There's a couple of mechanics he doesn't quite get right. So it's always like, I shouldn't say everything, right? There's a couple of tricks to this, because in this case we had a bubble up. So usually, I want to give away one secret at least. On a drifter wormhole, if your warp in hits a bubble, and it doesn't matter if the bubble is on 0 on the beacon, or if the bubble is 400 off the beacon in your direction, if you would get dragged, if you would hit that bubble, you will land on 0 on the beacon. Which is a weird mechanic, right? Usually you would expect to land on the bubble edge and stuff, but no, you land on 0 on the beacon. So what we did was, like, they were hunting us, and the timing was, shit, if they're in the system with us, try to squeeze through a drifter wormhole in time in AB Kiki is not easy. So what we did was send a dictator and then have it burn towards us. So it's like a couple hundred off, and it doesn't look like it drags. So we had the bubble up, and we just warped. And I believe they jumped in, got eyes on the thingy, and then it felt like, okay, worst case, we're going to land on the bubble edge, which is still at range where they want to be. And it's going to be fine, right? But the second they entered warp 2, I turned around and burned back to the beacon, right? So they all landed on 0 on us, basically on 20. And we just ran through the Hecates. And
beautiful.
Yeah, that's one of those little tricks with drifter wormholes that you need to be aware of, right? And then you can make some magical stuff happen. It was a good finish to the fleet.
Because we definitely, because we so add that to the battle report. Yeah, but because we talked about earlier about like young SCs having no other mindset than just undocking units, I want to explain as well that in this case we had zealots with tracking disruptors, and for a lot of the younger SCs, maybe they don't know because like no doctrine uses them except what sacrilegious at this point. So maybe goon guys know. But tracking disruptors, when actually applied at these mid-scale fights, are very strong.
Yeah.
And really good at dealing with these shield comps that don't have any E-war mids. As long as you can tank them a bit.
Max are kind of the target for that kind of stuff.
yeah, it worked out well for us. It could have gone badly because they have all heavy newts and we're in zealots, right? We're not exactly the
Yeah.
most cap efficient thing in the world, but with the tracking disruptors, we kept everybody alive pretty easily. Actually, there was like one hairy moment for a guardian, and after that, it was pretty easy. And a lot of that comes from the E-war power of those mids, and being able to basically you can not really sig tank these days, I guess, but sort of speed tank or outrange the max if they're they suffer from the optimal range scripts pretty hard.
Yeah, you know
So it all
what?
just depends. But
We had a fight against them. So I was in Gilas, we call them last Gilas, with like a large end cells and stuff. It's a really good mid-size comp. Like I'm trying to use them in larger scale too, but like it's hard for us to find a 1-to-1 fight at the moment. But I engaged.
I've not fought a Gila fleet that was good.
Pando, I hate to do this, but I gotta bail. I gotta stop and get a present that I forgot to get. I gotta go shopping for last minute.
Hey, thanks for coming on. Like
Hey,
to squeeze that in while driving and stuff. Good stuff. We're hitting 1.5 hours in a second anyway.
I cut you off. I kept cutting you off because it was delayed, and that was my bad. But
What?
I appreciate the invite.
No, I think it was all right. I haven't noticed anything. Yeah, it was all good. Thanks for coming on, Seddow.
All right, I'll see you guys.
Yeah,
Have a good one.
See ya. And then just let me finish on that one note here. When I took a fight against XIX, I wasn't like those Gilas, and they brought Max. I fell into that mindset. They're gonna be Arty, Kitey Max anyway, right? Because they were shield Max.
Yeah.
And they warped in, and I wasn't ready for it. I simply wasn't ready for it. They were AC Newt Max, right? And they just caught me off guard, and they murdered my fleet. Like, not all of them. I think they killed, I don't know, maybe like a couple, like 2-3 build or so. But I was like, shit, these guys could just come up. Like, if only I would have known, I could have done so much more. But like, they caught me off guard, and then boom, I lost a couple dudes.
Yep. It happens. I'm curious about your experience. If you want to stop, that's fine. But I fought a bunch of Gilas, and there's only one FC who I've seen use Gilas really well. I haven't fought you, so I can't speak to that. But the last Spartan does Gilas, and he's done them pretty well for a long time. Every other Gila fleet I fought has been a breeze. I've never struggled against Gilas with anything because they're a very predictable comp to me, and I find they're not that fast. So I never have. So you can, I can use battle cruisers against them. I can use zealots against them. I can use battleships against them. There's like no comp where I've struggled against them, I guess.
Well, I would say there's Gilas and there's Gilas. Like the fitting depends a lot. Like the style of how you engage and stuff, right?
The two most common that I fight is 100 in, which I think is terrible because they're so slow that there was a Gila fleet once recently, 16 Gilas, and I have 16 Hurricane fleet issues. Not really a serious comp, just a fun comp, right? And they were 100 in, and so when we warped in and bubbled them, they couldn't get away from us, and so we're just killing them, as they're burning away, but they can't actually turn, and they can't outrun us.
Yeah, I gave up on 100 MN stuff, basically, but we just fly them at 10 MN,
Yeah. Okay.
Because MWD, they're not stable on NWD. They're not super fast anyway. Sabers will still catch you easy peasy. Like, what's the point? Might as well put an AB on it, have cap stability, and mitigate some damage from some bigger guns. But yeah, I did engage like Mutant fleets twice our size, and we fucked them up. Right? They're really strong, I think.
I don't know. I don't know how you got away with it. Why didn't they just run you down?
Because they couldn't crack us, and because we cracked their.
They couldn't crack you at 0?
Well,
okay. I don't know.
I mean, so twice our size. I'm saying so. We are 25 and they're 50, right? So that kind of size.
50 mutants and they couldn't kill Gilas?
Well, it's a 50-man mutant fleet. It's a 50-man mutant fleet. So let's say it's like 30 mutants max, right? As long as they don't alpha us, they don't crack us.
Yeah. Were you 100 MN? What were you 10 MN? Because Spartan also does 10 MN. Yeah, so 10 MN is the Gila version that I've seen do well. I've never seen any other version do well. Every other time I fought Gilas, they just get pretty much wiped.
Yeah, I think
like MWD Gilas I fought a lot. It never worked. It was terrible.
I think if you fit 100 MN, you cripple all kinds of things, right? You suddenly you have to use a low for a reactor. I'm not sure 100%, but I think you do need to. So you lose tank there or DPS. Then you need to, like, the speed that's on paper, like, it takes too long to get to that speed, right? You're never gonna be able to use that speed effectively.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's just that you
Definitely.
don't gain a whole lot. You don't gain a whole lot on handle and Gillis.
You gimp a lot of tank for not that much speed,
Yeah,
and
and
there's
drone
pretty much everything in the
range.
game can track you.
Yeah, CPU
Well, the other
is
thing
missing.
is, even if you are at full speed and somebody warps in on you, if they have enough enough projection, they're just gonna directly burn at you anyways, and you're gonna get tracked easily. It's not like
Yeah.
you're out, you know what I mean? The 100 minutes not saving you there. You're just gonna still die. Yeah, I would think that 30 mutants could beat 30 kilos, but it depends how fast you run through them. Depends on their skills. So I get that. That's still, I'd still say that's an impressive win for the Gilas.
Well, I can
But
link
at
you a
least you
couple
do get to
fights.
do the drone damage first.
I can link you a couple fights where we fought mutants outnumbered and won. Or Serbs.
Yeah, we can do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're interested
Serbs
in
I
it.
think are pretty
I
bad
wanna.
too. Actually, I think I have no respect for Serbs actually,
Well,
because they also are pretty. I would take Gilas over Serbs even.
I mean, technically, it always depends on the fitting of the Gilas, really. Right? Technically, they could outrange you and outspeed you, so, like, you should be
They
untouchable on
should.
Serbs.
Yeah, they
Technically.
should. Yeah, you should be. You should be untouchable.
Serbs
But if they want to come
should
in and
beat
actually web
Gilas.
you, then
At the same time, though, so Murray says Serbs beat Gilas. Yes, technically. But at the same time,
yeah, kind of.
we have beat Serbs a couple times too. And what I like, that's why it's limited to 25, right? So I can boosh. So try to kite us when we boosh. And then you lose 1 or 2 or 3 Serbs every time we boosh on top of you. That's not necessarily the fight for you either. So there's a couple of tricks to that.
Yeah, there are definitely ways, and you're obviously one of the FCs who could do it, who can think around outside of just sitting on grid for ages. Like, a lot of FCs don't ever ping off, or they are really reactionary and wait. And obviously, you're using the keyless in a very different ways that are maybe a little more aggressive than other people might. I have no respect for Serbs, so people are saying Serbs are gonna beat Gilas and stuff. I wouldn't bet on that. Serbs will lose to a lot of doctrines because they're really not that. They don't apply that as well. Like, they just don't apply that well, and they need a lot of support. They're not that tanky. They're not that strong. I think it's one of those doctrines. People look at the paper stats, and even Ireland. At Rapid Light, I don't even care about, because Rapid Light, yeah, sure, you're gonna kill a few ships, but if they position well on you, you're gonna lose more Serbs during the reload.
The
and they're going to
thing
lose
is,
during your first volleys.
I think Dragoons are running Serbs, and on this big scale, you have enough targets for those Serbs. You know what I mean? Like, they apply 100% on, let's say, they can kill all the claymores fast because the DPS is quite good. They apply well. But
that's true.
In general, yeah. Like, a lot of people like to bring Serbs when we show up at Kikis, actually. And I like it. I can just whoop on 0, pin that anchor down, give him a good juicy bomb run, right? Or maybe 2 if I have the numbers. And those Serbs, they disintegrate quickly, right? We can run through that, even though they have a good thermal resists and stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Serbs absolutely. It's all about positioning. A lot of these fights, when you're using a doctrine like Serbs, I agree. Like, absolutely, it comes down to positioning for sure. No doubt. You can't you can't use a doctrine like Gilas and not worry about your positioning. It's the whole point of the fleet.
Yeah, Tenement AB Gilas don't fucking move anywhere. That is true. But no prop at all. I couldn't do that. I couldn't no prop the thingies, because, like, then you're really stuck, right? You're really stuck. So, like, AB, that's the minimum you need. But yeah, I can look at some.
I think Tenement is the way to go with that.
Actually, I can't link you the files.
Yeah, send them
because,
to me.
Yeah, I'll upload them and put them on private, because I'm re-uploading all the highlights from older streams at the moment, because the whole DMCA bullshit on Twitch and all that stuff, right? So I'll upload them and put them on private and send them to you. Yeah, we have a good bunch of fights with those.
Yeah, nice. I know Spartan does as well. He would probably vouch for Gila being like a strong, at least like a.
They're tricky though.
Like, not, I don't know, upper tier, but like a solid doctrine versus certain things, especially when other FCs aren't prepared for it or haven't fought them that much.
Exactly.
A lot of people do. A lot of people. It's one of those doctrines where a lot of people do them in I think a really inefficient way, and then when you do the Tenement Gila and you surprise them, they're not ready for it.
They're underestimated quickly, but then also, if everyone would fly Gilas, they would suck. Because then everyone would be ready for Gilas. Because you can't counter them. I mean, let's be honest. Like 1 or 2 smart bomb battleships, and what are the Gilas gonna do, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to give anyone ideas to counter my Gila fleets, right? I hope nobody's listening. And then,
I can give them ideas.
But let's be honest, right? You can boost the drones off too, like if you wanted to. Like you can do all kinds of things to those drones, right? And then the DPS is delayed, and there's a lot of problems with the drone DPS too.
Yeah. Well, Gilas have that drone health bonus, but it's not like they're immune to somebody just bringing a couple of smart bombs.
Yeah, that's why like our Gilas actually have like the faction Vespers as a standard in there, because it's just 8k EHP. That's a lot. So try killing those. You need 4 cycles with a full
time.
Yeah, 4 cycles with a full rack of smart bombs on a battleship, and you can kill them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what are you going to lose in that time? Is it that battleship maybe, right? So you need to bring 2, right?
You shouldn't lose a battleship like that, but yeah, if you're prepared.
Depends on the number of Gilas.
Yeah, of course, definitely. How many Gilas do you normally run with?
Well, like when I roam, it's like a 25-man fleet, which is like 18 Gilas.
Okay, yeah. So my mindset is about that size, right? Yeah, you should be fine. I think I could
18
take a battleship
Gilas,
out.
1 or 2 boosters, 1 simi, and then some tackle and a prober. Right, that's 25 people.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
1 Logi? Wow.
Yeah, because they're
Very
last
honorable
Gilas.
of you.
I need to make a video. I thought about doing a video for a long time. So I'm gonna make a video about the whole last concept, I think. Beyond B is running them too. He's like a big fan of the last ships too. And you know what's also interesting? You remember the first 2v2 cruiser event in those the metas shifted towards the large ancils, right? And it was me and Dopamine doing the first ones actually. Right, they stole it kind of from. I mean, I'm just gonna claim this now. Right? Who knows who else came up with the idea? But we were the first ones to run those on like Stabbers and later, what's it called? Tech 1 Amar cruiser.
The Mauler?
Amar, yeah. What's it called? The Evo one.
Oh, the Arbitrator.
Arbitrators, yeah, and stuff like this. So it became the meta after a while because it's just strong, right? You don't lose EHP, but the rep power is cap free because it's large ancils shields.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of rep power for you don't need a cap booster, so EHP is still good. It's a good combo.
So you're running fits like that. With your Gila fleet with your 1 simi, you've got ancils.
Exactly. That 1 simi is more bait than anything.
Oh.
I like it when
is this really just for?
She's pro.
No, are you using this in ESS or are you using this outside?
Like I've used them way before the ESS. I've used them in all kinds of scenarios. Yeah.
Got
it. But in the ESS they shine, obviously, right? You can like this
yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Okay, that's not the way. So what I'm talking about when Spartan does them, he's doing 10
normal
Gilas.
Yeah.
Proper support, Logi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes. I mean, what's their name? A Russian group in PanFam. Shit.
That I don't know.
No Value. So No Value were one of those guys that early on when we did the Gilas, they brought Serbs and we murdered those Serbs. They brought Munins, we murdered Munins. Then Fraternity brought Munins, we did with Munins. But the No Value guys, they were like, we kind of like this. And they just straight up stole the fits. And they're running last Gilas too now. They just straight up copied it. I'm not mad at it. I like it, right? I always feel like a proud dad when I see like a config I came up with and people use them because they like it so much. So they fly them too. And they bring more simis, which is maybe, I thought about that, right? Maybe that's actually a smarter move. Because when I only bring 1 Munin, everyone knows what's up. Sorry, Munins, simis, right? Simis.
Yeah.
So they bring like 4 or 5 simis for like a 25-man game, while I just bring one. But if I just bring one simi, everyone knows what's up. So, but in that case, everyone might just think, oh, this is just normal Gelas, right? 4 simis, that's not too much. So they engage and then realize, oh shit, the tank is insane. Yeah. Oh yeah, the trick.
Well, makes sense. Makes sense.
Oh yeah, but so the trick that you might not realize with this is actually you have the large ensil. The DPS can be assisted, right? So you don't have to lock hostiles.
Yep.
So what you do is lock
Yep.
all the friendlies. So everyone's pre-locked by a lot of Gelas. So you have a lot of rep power, and everyone's already pre-locked. So whoever's taking damage, if he's not getting alpha'd, boom, there's a seven Gelas are repping you already, right? And that's the whole where the tankiness comes from. Yeah, I'll make a video about that. I think.
I see what you're talking about now, because obviously that's going to catch a lot of groups off guard. Maybe not now that you've explained it, but if they're listening, or if you fought them before. But yeah, I can see that definitely is going to catch people off guard. Although if I saw 18 Gelas, it would be difficult for me to be like, I would probably do, I don't know, 2 Logi, but I wouldn't come with like 5-6 Logi or something to fight 18 Gelas who had 1 Simi. Because I'd be expecting
you'd run our Logis so fast, like it's insane how fast they kill Logis. It's insane. We just run through Simis.
The alpha is good. It applies so well.
Yeah.
Well, now I know, so I'll...
I shouldn't have said anything. When you first brought it up, and said like
you roll in.
Yeah, when you first said like I can't what Gelas, like I don't just see that. I was like, I would love to fight.
Well, yeah, because all the Gila fleets I'm talking about are Gila fleets that were formed by people with lots of Logi, right? 6-7 Logi, and I've just never found it difficult to fight them at all. They don't trade well versus other fleets whatsoever. It's just, I don't know. It's always
I mean, there's a limit to them, right? So I have pushed it to the maximum. Like, what can we fight with this? Like, how much can we actually tank? And I tested it. We fought like Brave and the not recently, it's a long time ago, and Test and so on down in Head. And so we had like 120, and they brought like, I don't know, 200 people plus caps. And I was like, all right, put it to a test, and it was too much. Right, so like if you outnumber like that and they just run to you too fast for people to apply it, that's where the limit is, right? You need to be able to not get alphas. So there's a hard limit on them. You cannot go in those massive block fights like 250 people with 250 people and expect like to trade super well.
Well, when I'm talking about these full tank Gila fleets, I'm not talking about Volta having a huge blob or something. I would take fights versus Gilas with like those 16 Gilas. I had 16 HFIs for Hurricane fleet issues. At times I've taken fights versus like 20-ish Gilas with about 16, 17 Hurricane fleet issues, and we still just outtrade too quickly. We might lose one Hurricane fleet issue, but in that time frame we'll have killed 2 or 3. We'll usually catch reps for quite a while, and then we'll if they don't swap quickly, we're gonna run through them. So that's kind of my thinking. That's MWD Gilas. The 100 MN Gilas, they came close, maybe one primary, and then after we killed a few really quickly compared to them, and that was it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't find it difficult to alpha Gilas.
Well, let's put it to a test one day.
Just incredible, but
well, we'll put it to a test. One day we'll see each other, and we just just for science.
Right.
Let's see. Maybe I just fought like low quality fleets. I don't know.
All right.
I got away with it.
It's very it's I don't want to talk too much shit about other people, but yeah, it's possible. You never know. I don't know.
You never know. But yeah, everyone's in that MWD on get that million alpha in kind of mindset. So
that's true. Maybe you'll throw me for a loop, but when I warp in my HFIs, you'll actually turn, unlike all the other groups that just move directly away.
Yeah.
Just let me flap.
Well, I would say let's just end it on this note. It was a good time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, definitely.
And everyone on stream, I'm not sure if you saw the ping on my Discord, but CCP, like every partner has like some skins. So at the end of this stream, there's going to be a code actually. So whoever gets it, gets it. Just saying, right? Right. All right, guys. Then thanks for hanging out. And see you guys on the next one.
Thanks, Panda.
Bye.
Yeah.